That's James's lentil dish with some pita. And I'm going to show you, when you get lentils, you have to wash them really well. So first you go through and you pick out things like that. So that looks like a rock.
Holy smokes.
Rock. You don't want to be eating that rock.
No, my
And
heavens,
sometimes I pick out the lentils that look dark, because they sometimes don't cook right. Anyway, and then you rinse them really well, and then you put the seasoning in and cook them, and they're great. So I'm going to talk about Jexi, which got top of the stack.
Is that the way they say it, Jexi, or is
I
it
don't
Jexi?
remember. You Hurt My Feelings, The Last Stand, Jabberwocky, and My True Fairytale. So I'll see about the... Do you have anything to talk about for a minute? I gotta grab something.
I don't know. I haven't been. I've been under the weather. The last thing I want to do is listen to stuff, depressing stuff. So it's news is depressing, especially nowadays. But to me, listening to the CBC is like listening to Fox Network. And the thing is, I think a lot of commentators on the Fox Network know they're lying. But the CBC folks have no clue that they're lying. They're into their little religion, which is social democracy. That's what they call it. It's really anti-social and anti-democratic. So it's a little belief system. Buddhism basically doesn't believe in a god, neither do the Social Democrats, although they do have their godlike figures. Bernie Sanders, for example. Maybe they consider him more of a prophet. Anyway, to bigger and hopefully better things.
So it's funny, I was just at the library. James picked me up there. And I was talking to a man who was looking through the videos, the return shelves, because he does the same thing that I do, just picks up from the return shelf. And anyways, he said to me, well, I left all the comedies for you. And I said, oh, well, as a rule, I generally avoid the romantic comedies. They're not for me. I said I'm more into the suspense and mystery. But which I could see he was too. But I think, whatever he watches, it will show up back on the return shelf, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll get a chance to watch those things if there were things there that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But
like you check every day.
Here this is, a romantic comedy that got top of the stack. Weird.
Usually they're just full of lies. Right?
I know. Usually they are, I'm generalizing the romantic comedy genre, but usually they are not romantic, nor are they comedy. Usually I don't laugh at all, and it's more like a horror movie. You're watching these people going, you're not compatible at all, or you don't know each other, what are you thinking, And it's supposed to be all romantic, and it's just a nightmare. This is a true romantic comedy. It's romantic. I mean, you see the woman's beautiful, and it's about, okay, I'll tell you what this is about. It's about a guy who, he loves his smartphone. All he does is he works with, now what is it? It's some sort of a, I don't know. It's a computer somehow. I don't know what he does lists for.
Information technology.
Yeah, I don't know. He builds lists for, like, cutest cats or whatever. Those silly things that get a lot of hits on the web.
What are those? What type of cats?
Well, anything cats really gets a lot of hits on the
Dogs
internet.
probably too, eh?
Maybe so. People seem to really love cats being cute.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's what he does for a living, and he goes home. He doesn't have any friends in his life or anybody really. He just spends time with his phone, and that's about it. So you see this guy, and he gets a new phone, and his phone is really rude to him. His new phone is one of those smartphones that does everything. If you've watched my review recently of Within, It was a bunch of short stories that people did during the COVID thing, and there were some great ones there. One of my favorite one was about a smartphone. I think it was called I'm Listening. And so this one, it's amazing that this got top of the stack too. That's another great smartphone movie, right? Which I never would have thought that would be possible. But here it is. Excellent. He has this new smartphone that's really rude to him and says all sorts of awful things. And so he meets this woman that's, his phone tells him she's way out of your league and this and that. But you find out, along the way, you're thinking, this is a silly thing. You meet her ex-boyfriend he says he wants to win her back, right? And this guy, the ex-boyfriend's really handsome, really everything that you think she would want, right? She's very beautiful. And yet you learn more about these people and you think, wow, they are perfectly compatible. Like, she used to work in Amazon and she was really addicted to her phone, and so she's like, she's broken away from that, and now he is following her away from that sort of lifestyle and to something better. So honestly, I laughed so much when I watched this. This was I was thinking, it'd be great to have a movie where it's really genuinely really funny, and instead of showing the audience the movie itself, you show the audience an audience watching the movie and laughing, and it'd be so great because, when we're laughing, honestly, we laugh in really silly ways, and it makes everyone else laugh, because it's genuine. It's genuine emotions are contagious a lot of the time. And this was excellent. So excellent. I love it. I don't know if I could pick a favorite laugh that I got from it. There were just so many good ones.
I'm going to go grab some water.
Yeah.
More one.
Yeah. So you hurt my feelings. This is another one that usually I tell you, I was writing poetry while I watched the movies, and yeah, it was good or bad. I wasn't writing poetry while I was watching that or this. These are worth watching, or this, but this is a documentary, so I take notes during documentaries and I write poetry. So anyway, I didn't expect much from this movie. I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus okay, but I never could have imagined that she could do such a good job as she did in this. She really her emotions seemed real and everything, when her feelings were hurt. You felt it, I didn't think she was capable of this. So, great job. Totally worth watching.
Thank you.
The Last Dance. So I'll read my notes from it.
Come on up.
This is a documentary from 2022, and it's about an hour long. 1/5 of the forests remain undisturbed. Fairy Creek watershed is protesting. The people there are protesting. It's being logged. And it's an old growth forest. Did you know, Canadians, that our government is still allowing old growth forests to be taken down? How can that be? So anyway, the government has estimated that there's 23% of old growth left, but scientific studies show that less than 3%.
They're overestimating it by 10 times.
Of harvestable ancient forest remain. Some natives there want the logging to occur to create jobs, but others want to protect the trees. The Rainforest Flying Squad is an environmental group there who are tired of the government deceiving the people, saying that the old growth trees are being protected when they're actually being logged. Amazon Watch, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sigourney Weaver, and other celebrities have been attracted to the work Amazon Watch has done and is doing. Vancouver's old growth has 4 times the biomass of any equivalent acreage in the tropics. One western hemlock has 70 million needles. If those needles were laid out on the ground, they'd create a photosynthetic surface 10 times the size of a football field. The natives have been getting jobs from the logging and putting some of the money back into restoring the watersheds, repairing salmon stocks and stuff. Trees use the mycorrhizal network below the ground to send signals, chemical messages to each other. We are now learning that when the forest is stressed, the mother tree, or trees, right, seems to nurture her smaller trees on the forest floor. Trees communicate via chemicals. Could a little brown bat or an unusual lichen stop the logging in BC? The Amazon rainforest is the cradle of biodiversity. The forest generates its own rainfall. In the US, the snowpack in the Rockies comes from the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon's on fire to make way for agriculture, soy farms, and cattle ranching. In the last 30 years, 730,000 square kilometers have been destroyed, the size of Texas or Chile. The land has been turned from carbon sinks to carbon emitter. If silviculture practices were actually successful, we wouldn't be cutting down old growth forests still. And that was the message that I wanted to leave you with, because really that's the one thing that somebody said in this that was worth saying, more than anything else. It's something that we should be thinking about. They're planting trees and logging areas. They've been doing it. Why are they having to go after the old growth? If it was working, if their system of regenerating lumber was sustainable, they wouldn't have to be going after the old growth forests, right? Oh my gosh. So it really gets you thinking.
It should get you thinking right back to the ultimate problem, which is overpopulation.
Yes. And that's one thing that they didn't touch with this 10-foot pole when they were talking about this. They were talking.
BBC then?
It's a Canadian thing. So, well, I imagine it was Canadian. It's talking about BC.
Exactly right.
So
CBC
The Last
then?
Stand. I love the title of this DVD. It's excellent because Stand of Trees, The Last Stand, right? And I mean, with only 3% left, that's not really an over-exaggeration. Anyway, what do you do?
You got to try to shame people into stopping. Overpopulating. Its population is pollution. When you have more than 2 kids per family, 1 per person, in a traditional family, you are polluting the world with people. And it's
that's
shameful.
just something to think about. I mean, people don't talk about, even people who think they're really environmentally conscious and they're having more children than they should have to call themselves or to think of themselves as being environmentally conscious. Your children are going to grow up and they're going to need houses. And where are those houses coming from?
In our society,
So,
they're made out of wood. Many of them.
oh boy. Now, one thing I didn't like about this show is that they kept jumping around. They were jumping around the Amazon, they were jumping back to BC, this and that, and this and that. I didn't care for that. I think there was probably enough to talk about just in BC alone, rather than having to jump around. Or maybe they could have done it in a different way, so that they tied it together better. Like, there was only one thing that tied the Amazon stuff to the BC stuff, and that was the mention that the rainfall, like that the Amazon creates its own rainfall, the forest, and that the Rocky Mountains, the rainfall there is actually created by the Amazon rainforest. So that's the only thing that I got from this that tied the things together. And they could have done a better job at tying the things together, because I don't think they mentioned once I don't think they mentioned temperate rainforest. I don't think they said that once. So that would have helped tie it together, perhaps. Anyway, yeah, it's important to know about this stuff. And honestly, I didn't know. I didn't know that they were still taking down the old growth stuff.
I mean, it's going to keep going and going.
People
and going.
have to know. So I'm glad that they put this documentary out, so that now I know. It's ridiculous.
I'm blaming
Why
both
are they taking
right-wingers
it
and
down?
left-wingers.
So what can you do about it? You know, I'm watching the protesters there, and there's some people banging on drums and marching, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people there that are actually doing a lot of good. But when I see people blah 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 and you know, some sort of protest chants or singing or whatever, I am totally turned off. And James has talked about it before, seeing environmentalists who look all hippie-ish,
Like freaks.
yeah, it makes you not interested in whatever they're selling.
Well,
So
I don't care what they look like. I don't care what they're selling. But the average person just looks at them and says they don't know.
I
know what from
but
Shinola.
exactly, and that's the thing, is teach me more, learn more yourself, and show that, rather than the chanting, rather than definitely not the banging on drums and stuff. Like, that's ridiculous. That's such a turnoff to me. Well, I hate it when I see environmental, any kind of aggressive propagandists out there in the spotlight, but especially the ones that are aggressive propagandists who are environmental spotlights. Because really aggressive propagandists, they're just, they want attention. Look at me, look at me. And so when they're in front of something, they're standing in front of something really genuinely important, like the environment, and really they're just there so that you will look at them, and they're using the environment like they're pimping it out for their own purposes. It makes me sick. So when I see people chanting, leading a chant, or banging on drums and stuff, I'm turned off. I don't want to hear what they have to say. But I want to hear about the environment. I desperately want to hear about what's happening with the environment. So please stop putting environmental aggressive propagandists in the spotlight when they're talking about this stuff. Put somebody out who in the spotlight who has information to share, actual information. Anyway.
It becomes like a religious service, and a very poorly managed one, with lousy songs.
Yeah.
You know, the Catholics at least get it right about their services. They, you know.
And lousy chants. And I don't want to hear it. It turns me off of actually hearing what I want to hear. Anyway, Jabberwocky.
But the worst is, I don't want to hear. All we're saying is give peace a chance.
Well, and
when I first heard that on the radio, I thought, that's John Lennon? Boy, has he fallen far.
Yeah, I know. Well, they were playing
drowning in the mire.
The Tree Falls in the Forest quite a lot in this video, but
yeah, Bruce
whatever.
Coburn, what a sleaze bucket.
Anyway, Jabberwocky, 1977. This one stars Michael Palin, and it's a Terry Gilliam film. And yeah, it was all right. It wasn't the best Gilliam thing that I've seen, but eh. My True Fairytale, not worth watching. Not at all. It says inspired by true events.
Huh?
I wanted to care because they had, I mean, it's car accidents and whatnot, that's a sad thing, but whatever. I didn't care. The acting was bad. I didn't want to watch it. It was not watchable for me. That's all I have to say. Oh, no, I was going to say one more thing. So barbecue pulled pork seasoning. This one does not have pork in it. It doesn't have. It could be vegan. It's like you could make a vegan dish with it. So James's dish that he had just now, that was entirely vegan actually, because that's all it was. It was lentils made with that, and some walnuts and some pita bread, which honestly, it has this bakery that we got all this bread given to us, and I'm so thankful for it because yum. But they use shortening for everything, and I don't know. Are you shortening your life with shortening? I don't know, right? But having said that, the pita that they made, it's top notch. I mean, they're actual pita pockets. You cut it open and it's a pocket, whereas some brands you get the pita and they stick together and you can't use it like a pocket. These ones you can. So thank you, Lakeview Bakery. So that's all I had to say.
I want to talk about demonstrations.
Okay, you talk about it then. I'll tell you how much time you have.
Demonstrations that happened in
you have
68.
Quite a few minutes. Yeah. It's
in a lot of places in the world, France, and the United States in particular. Of course, what helped fuel the unrest was the United States had a bit of an economic downturn. It came from the first oil crisis. Yeah, there was one before 73, 74. It was in 67. The Democrats were in power in the United States, and they had what was called, they might still have it, a strategic oil reserve. And it was made for oil shocks. And what they did was, so this was in the wake of what's called the 6 Day War, where Israel handed the hindquarters of the Arabs. I don't know how many Arab countries attacked them. Was it 5? Well, really, that was a slightly different sort of situation. It was Nasser blockaded, I think it was the Gulf of Aqaba, which is the Israelis' access to the east by the sea. Apparently it's an act of war, and so they said, okay, we're going to treat it like a real war. And they handed the Arabs, and deservedly so, their hindquarters. But what was I talking about? Demonstrations. So the Arabs, with I guess OPEC existed at that point in time, and they put on a big, like an oil blockade, and on the rest of the world they tried to force the prices up. I guess it wasn't so much a blockade; they just cut down production, prices went up. But the United States flooded the market with a strategic oil reserve, and it really didn't affect the economy that much. But so that was in 67, spring of 67. And the U.S. stock market actually went down for, it never recovered to its 67 levels for, I think, well over a decade. It might have been close to 2 decades, into the 80s. So it did affect the world economy, not just the American economy. And when the economy goes bad, I'm not talking about inflation, I'm talking about unemployment. People get upset with the various systems that they're saddled with. And, they look for different solutions, mostly extreme solutions. You only have to look at Japan in 31 and Germany in 33. In Japan, they elected militarists. The militarists came to power in 33. I don't have to tell you, it was January the 30th. The guy kind of won the election. I think he only got about 30% of the vote. But how much time?
4 minutes.
Okay. So there was a lot of unrest, particularly in the republics of this world. The places that had monarchies, constitutional monarchies, were a lot more stable. And I actually, because of that, believe in constitutional monarchy, like they've got in Holland, England, I think in at least some of the Scandinavian countries, let's say Denmark. But, you got all sorts of hefty, lefty, shifty, nifty, shifty lefties going around saying, we almost had a revolution in France in 68. Oh, tell me about it. The people would have turned, the real people would have turned on, like if they'd had a coup or something like that, and supported the military in crushing it. You see, like, de Gaulle was somewhat unpopular, the leader of France, and he just held a snap election right after it wasn't really crushed, but the stuff died away, the demonstrations, and he won a pretty substantial majority. He increased his support, whereas it was going down before then. The stuff tends to be polarizing, these demonstrations. It was incredible what they were doing. They were barricading whole streets and stuff like that. United States, it was something similar. 1968, what happened? Who was elected that year? Was it Hubert Humphrey, who was a liberal, and quite a liberal? No, it wasn't him. It was Richard Nixon. See what happened? See what those stupid demonstrations did? They're actually polarizing, and they tend to move people away from your position, especially if they're things like the police riot, which was instigated by a bunch of nifty, shifty, hefty lefties doing their own little riot. The police rioted, but nifty, shifty, hefty lefties were pretty bad too. A lot of people got what they didn't deserve, newspapermen, and some people actually believed in peace, love, and flowers. Now, the 60s movement was supposed to be about peace, love, and flowers. That's interesting, because it was really about surrender, or nowadays it's submission to particular religion. Back then it was surrender to the commies, in Vietnam, Cuba, everywhere really. And love, watch Woodstock, it's about lust. So it was surrender, lust, and the flowers were more like various products of plants. Like you get opium from plants, you get cocaine from plants, you get LSD from plants. Well, it's stuff that grows on wheat, I believe, ergot. And you get marijuana from plants. That's the only plants that it was really about. It wasn't really about flowers. So, wake up and smell the coffee. Yeah. So, the folks just made themselves unpopular, these nifty, shifty, hefty lefties, and they've been doing it ever since. Like Bernie Sanders. Oh my God. There's a reason why Fox Network was giving him blanket coverage in the last election. Why? They wanted him running against Trump, because Trump would have handed his hindquarters to him. Have fun.